For general safety, we discussed universal masking and physical distancing. Universal masking or face covers and physical distancing should be a must on sidelines for athletes as well as coaches and officials. FHSAA SMAC has developed guidelines for the COVID-19 safety for officials. This includes masking and the use of electronic whistles or horns to avoid the need to remove the mask during play. While the SMAC understands that fan attendance will be a local decision, it is their position that fans should not be allowed at this time. This recommendation is due to the inherent difficulty for fans to self-regulate physical distancing and adherence to masking. Similar reasoning would include not having band members in the stands. So in conclusion, at the time of writing these recommendations, Florida has reported over 10,000 new COVID-19 cases per day for 9 out of the past 10 days, with a percent positive rate ranging from 18 up to 19.6%. These numbers are incredibly concerning for all of the reasons listed above. It is our moral and ethical duty as the FHSAA SMAC to make sound and fair recommendations to the FHSAA Board of Directors based on medical facts. What we know and what we do not know about COVID-19, it is our stance that returning to competition for the high-risk sports of football and volleyball at this time is not medically safe. We will monitor the state of the COVID-19 pandemic and look for all of the above safety benchmarks to be met in order to safely return to competition. So I'm sorry that was very long. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Maynard. Thank you for reviewing the report and putting it in terms that was easily understandable for the common person who is not a medical professional. So I appreciate you getting that turned around so quickly. We will turn it over for questions at this time. And I do have a question of Mr. Tomlin. Based on these recommendations of SMAC, as the executive director, what are your endorsements of these recommendations?
I appreciate the attention that the SMAC has given to us, and I'll let the board digest that. I've had only a short period of time to review them myself, nor have I had the opportunity to review this with staff either. So we'll let the board go ahead and weigh in now.
So you don't have a recommendation on these items?
I think I just answered your question.
Mr. Oliva?
Thank you, Ms. Otero. My understanding when we approved this to be on the agenda, I think was a little more in lines with Mr. Finlayson, that this was being presented for information only. So my question is, if we're to take action on this report, can the action or the motion be to just receive this report for information only?
I would say if that's the pleasure of the board, I believe so. Anyone else?
I said mine wasn't a question for Dr. Maynard. I'd like to just make a motion to receive this report for information only and move on to the next action item.
I have something to say before we do that.
That's fine, I'll yield.
And I believe Ms. Patrica did as well, so I'll refer to Ms. Patrica first.
I was actually going to say exactly what Chancellor Oliva said, so I'm good.
Thank you, Mr. Schusterman.
Yes, I'm going to be honest with everybody that this is something that we have never seen before. And I'm really disturbed that people just don't see the importance of looking at this from a medical standpoint before we put kids out on a field and have competition. A month ago, I would have said this is a problem for Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. But the people that are living in a dream world that the rest of this state is not being affected by this are not seeing reality. We need to delay sports. And I'm going to tell you, just looking at a few stats, you're looking at counties. We have 6 counties in the state that are in the top 50 in the nation. And I'm just not sure that high schools, when colleges are canceling things, that we can't at least delay what we're trying to do. You have the Sunshine Conference, St. Leo, all those schools have canceled all fall sports, and I'm not asking for that. I think that we should be delaying this until we can see exactly where it's going. The ramifications of just one child 2 years from now goes for a physical and is told you've had swelling in your lungs, scars in your lungs, or you've had problems with your arteries, isn't worth it. And I think we have an obligation to protect the athletes that are under our care. And we have asked our medical committee to put together a report. And I actually think that it should probably go a little further because there are concerns about conditioning and about cross country. And I've gotten letters from some swim coaches about having the 2 and 3 schools on a pool deck. But in all honesty, I think we can just not just put this as a discussion item and look at the other proposal and vote to let these kids get on a field this week. I just do not think it's the right thing for us to do. And I think we have to trust in the medical people. And if it means delaying everything we're doing and taking another look at it, and people want to sit back and get information, more information, then I believe in that. But we cannot just sit back and just put these kids back on the field when we don't understand all the ramifications that are going on here. California delayed fall. Texas their private schools have already done it. The others are probably going to follow suit, and they're delaying football. And we right now, whether you want to realize it or not, are the epicenter of this whole thing in the world. We are New York in April. And if we don't take hold of this and we allow these kids to go out there and then they go into school and spread it into families, we will be the people responsible for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schusterman. I could not agree with you more. And as an athletic administrator, I am not a medical professional, which is why I would defer to medical professionals on a committee that is for the sole purpose of advising the FHSAA when it comes to medicine. Mr. Johns.
Thank you. I'll start off, all due respect to Mark, who's a very, very trusted friend and colleague. I think it's very important that I make a few statements. These are not questions to be answered unless Ms. Otero feels the need to answer them. First off, the only way I see that we can vote on this as a proposal of some kind is to first vote on the postponement of sports, because if we start breaking this thing down into pieces, unless you're postponing indefinitely, I think the word that was used was until further notice, which is very open-ended, and basically leaves no hope in sight. So we might as well use the word cancel, because that's the direction that this will take us. And if this board's fine with that, canceling and saying there's no fall sports, then more power to you. But we can color it whatever color we want to. It will not be until further notice. It will be till it's over, because it will be over when that decision is made. But I just want to point out a few things. One, it completely flies in the face of the stance of what the governor has said and what our school systems has said, that we are going to try to go back to school. We just received a few minutes ago via email our official back to school plan, which includes athletics, includes classroom, includes phys ed, all those type of things. Every school district has that. Every school district is working diligently and has been working diligently on that. But according to the doctor and the SMAC report, they feel like they should be the ones to determine how those school districts set those qualifications, and those school districts are not being consulted in that. So the other thing is that we start talking about not allowing kids that to participate. We have homeschool kids, we have kids that are going virtual, we have so many different gamuts, but we also have brick and mortar. We still have kids coming to school, and so and I'll use us as an example. We're small. I won't use a big school because I don't know the exact numbers. We have 356 kids, 7 through 12. When 350 kids show up on August the 10th, we're going to say it's great. You can go to school. You can be in a lunch line with 250 kids. You can go to PE with these kids. But sorry, you can't play sports, because that's what's going to happen in a lot of places where the majority of kids are going to go back to school. Even if they're not back in school, you're going to have some parents that don't feel like it's safe for them to be in a school with 2,000 kids, but in a contained environment of athletics, they do believe that that's okay. So, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I've got my own thoughts on that, but you're going to have parents that will be that way. Ultimately, the parents do not, they control this situation. They do not have to allow their kids to participate. They can say no. You know, I've had 56 kids in workouts throughout the summer. We've had 0 positive tests. I've had one parent that did not allow their kid to come for 1 week. And we understood that. It was their prerogative for them not to be able to come. We talked about phased reopenings. We've already been through phased reopenings. The government's been through phased reopenings. We are phasing in reopening of schools. So, you know, all summer long, school districts and superintendents and principals have monitored what decisions are being made athletically. Can you practice? Can you be inside or outside only? Can you go inside? Are the cases spiking in our area? So do we need to shut down a little bit to get a handle on that? That has been going on throughout this state the entire summer. So who are we now to go back and say, well, you know, all the protocols you put in place, that's not enough. We're going to move to the recommendations of SMAC and say, okay, what you've been doing is not okay. Now you got to follow these guidelines. So the last thing I'm going to say on this topic is, you know, my understanding is that the SMAC committee met just this week for about 2.5 hours. Okay. And I'm not saying that I don't agree with some of the things they say. I'm not saying that I don't appreciate that. And I'm not a doctor. All I know is that a 2-hour meeting or a 2.5-hour meeting, you know, that holds the future and this athletic season in for thousands of kids in your hands, that seems like not a long time to deliberate over this. So, you know, this is something that I think is very important. But the bottom line is, I wish we would stop talking about postponing and go ahead and call it what it is, which is canceling. Thank you.